Hello. Oh my goodness. I am doing this live on Instagram and I'm doing this on YouTube. That will be recorded for later, but this is the vlog I've been doing now for a little bit, and it's a set free series, and this one is called Set Free to Be Remembered. And so basically, as I've explained before, I am essentially just sharing my journey that I am walking along. And sharing those processes with you, and hoping that if you stumble upon this, that it helps you process anything that you're thinking about, or maybe you've not thought about it, and so you're going to process it and think about it, and it will be such a blessing to you. And so I hope you've had a really good week. It's been a week since I've recorded one of these. I hope you're doing really, really well. Lots of places are experiencing lots of snow, so we're the same here. We've got some sunshine today, but lots of snow falling, and it's kind of exciting. Finally, people are happy on the slopes. But as I said, this week I'm talking about being set free to be remembered. So I do this app called Soultime. It's a Christian meditation app. And it really just helps me check in with myself. It gives me the space to really focus on God and hear what He might be saying for me for today. And so I wasn't particularly feeling forgotten, but they had one called Feeling Forgotten. And I started to think about it as I was choosing it. I really have had this like fear, almost like a fear of missing out, or this fear that, okay, God, please don't forget America. Please don't forget pouring out your spirit here in Utah. And I came from Florida, and I'm seeing lots of revival happening in some of the cities, Orlando, West Palm Beach, some of the places that I grew up in. And I'm like, God, I don't want to miss your spirit being poured out on everyone here in Utah. And so I was just being afraid that I would be forgotten. And I've had some experience in my past with trauma in different situations in which I've had to work through the feelings of, God, where were you? And I feel forgotten. But it's hope that keeps giving me vision to keep on going. And part of my hopes are that I would see the end time harvest, and see people's lives be deeply touched and deeply affected in the fullness of God, and just wanting more of Him. And so I don't want Him to forget about us here in Utah. And, when I came to Utah, I had no idea what Utah or where Utah was. And now I've been here for 20 years, and I love Utah. I love the beautiful people of Utah. And at the same time, I'm like, God, I came from Florida, and there's so much happening there. So as I started doing this app, the first thing that was done was we read this verse in Isaiah 49, and I think it's verse 15 through maybe 17, and I'm going to read it to you real quick. It says, "Can a mother forget the infant at her breast, walk away from the baby she bore? But even if mothers forget, I would never, no, never forget you. Look, I've written your names in the backs of my hands. The walls you're rebuilding are never out of my sight." And so I'm like, okay, we're starting from the place of God won't forget me. But then as I started going down the meditation, they had us ask some questions, and it was like, do I still feel forgotten? I can hear that, but does it register with my heart brain? And I'm like, yes, I get it up here that this is true, but my heart, this 9-inch journey, somewhere it's not connecting. And there is now science that has said that your heart has like a brain of its own. So it makes sense that this brain would get it, but this brain, this heart part, would not get it. And so I stopped and I asked myself, yeah, I hear you, I believe you, because you're not a man that you should lie, but yet I still feel like I could be forgotten, and that maybe you have forgotten me in the past. So then it's, why? Why do I still feel forgotten? So then the next question was, well, when did I first feel forgotten? And as soon as I asked God that question, He took me, boom, immediately to when I was a child, when I first was bullied as I was walking down the street. alone. And I mean, I can laugh at it now, but I wasn't that overweight. I was just a little bit, I wasn't a stick, I guess is what it was. And so I was called Hubba Bubba and Elephant Legs, and literally those things stuck with me for a long time until I verbally said, I forgive. But I felt very alone, very vulnerable, and obviously it really did affect my self-image for many years. And it's something so small, but it had a very deep impact. And I was just like, yeah, I felt like you forgot me. That's when I first felt forgotten. So I said, okay, God, you walk through, okay, again, I forgive these people. Now, God, where were you when this happened? And as soon as I asked him that, he showed me that he was right by me, walking with me, holding me hand in hand. He was telling me, I'm your best friend. And it was like I had this feeling of, he is my best friend. Yeah, you may be making fun of me over there, but I'm here hand in hand with Jesus, the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, the creator of the universe, the one who, and the only one who can truly satisfy me deep inside. I'm walking hand in hand with you right now. And I had this overwhelming sense of how much he loved me. But then immediately I felt a little wall go, well, yeah, but you love everybody. And he does. He has compassion on those boys that were making fun of me, because those boys didn't just decide, I'm going to be mean and make fun. Clearly, they have something inside of them, probably some deep injuries that cause them to treat another human in that way. And God loves them. He loves everybody. Does. But I said, okay, God, what is the truth that you want to show me about that? And this blew me away, because I did not ever think about this. He told me, yes, my love is the same for everyone. It's true. But your heart is different. It responds to my love and it seeks me out. Wow. I never thought of that aspect. But I mean, isn't it true? Like, I love many people, but it's those people who have hearts that respond to my love and who seek my love out and who pursue me. Oh, it's making me, wow, that I just feel overwhelmed, and my love grows for them and I respond back, and it's this beautiful dance of love, 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 love. And so I was like, okay, God, you look at my heart. And I started to think through, okay, what Bible verses do I have in there to kind of, because this sounds like just what I want to hear. And I'm trying to think about the heart. And so I started going down verses, and God reminded me of 1 Samuel 16, or I think it's 16, where Samuel's looking for a replacement for Saul in the Bible, a new king. And he goes to David's family, and they're like, yeah, these are all my sons. But David was off in the fields, and they bring him up, and sure enough, God says, this is the one, even though he looked too young and didn't look like anything impressive. And so it was really interesting to hear God say to Samuel, everybody else looks at the outward appearance, but I look at the heart. And so I was thinking about this in reference to what God had just told me. And then I started going through how our heart, out of it flows the issues of life, the springs of life. And so our heart is very important. And that's why God tells us to guard that, because everything comes from that place. And then I was reminded of Matthew 6, which says, where your heart is, there will your treasure be. So my treasure, as evidenced in my heart, was in Jesus. In that moment, as I'm walking with him, my heart, my treasure, clearly was him. And of course, that means everything to God. And then I was looking at Proverbs 23, which says, your wise heart makes my heart glad. And that's God talking. It's God saying, your heart of wisdom, which I think it's very wise to be in relationship with him, makes his heart glad when we have relationships in which the one who we love is loving us back and is treating us with wisdom and love and connection, even through hard things. It makes our hearts glad. And it just creates this beautiful love cycle. So as I was thinking about this, I also started thinking about, okay, so I am afraid I'm going to be forgotten, that I'm going to miss out on things that you're doing on the earth, right? And I started going through, I've had lots of different trauma situations in my life, and I was remembering how I had felt very not remembered when my first husband, when I was married to him, and there were years of abuse, and then he died in a tragic way. And then I had my mom, who had a long battle with cancer, and we believed for healing, and we prayed for healing, we asked for healing, and it didn't happen. And in those moments, I felt very forgotten. I remember feeling like after I got out of my first relationship, I was just like, God, I trusted you. You were my everything. And I felt very forgotten. I was like, how could you let me stay in that for so long? I was praying. I was trying to do the best that I could. I was da 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 da. God, I felt so forgotten. And the Lord didn't answer that right away, but he showed me later that he was right there and he protected me from so much more that would have happened. And that, he gives us free will. And I had gotten out earlier, I would have been in a worse situation. The same, at least, at best, I would have been in the same kind of situation, or I would have been worse off. And God's compassionate with us in our process. He didn't want me to stay there, but he will not violate free will. And I would have just gone to a terrible situation. I think of the Israelites. They marched around for forever because I think they, weren't ready to be out of the bondage that they were in. And so it took a generation to get that out of them. Otherwise, they would go back to the same situation. And so I felt like, much like God showed me, you weren't forgotten. I was letting you do your process, and I protected you, and I was there for you so much. And he started to show me ways that he had protected me. And then my mom, I think a beautiful thing that has happened, because it can feel like, okay, but you forgot about us here. And I still don't have all the answers. I don't think I will have all of them until I get to heaven, but something so beautiful that just happened a couple of weeks ago. One of my children, who has suffered greatly with the loss of his father, and then not long after, the loss of the second closest person to him, his grandma. And the Lord gave him a dream that was so vivid that she was in this room in a big place, but she was happy, she was healthy, and it settled something in his spirit, which also settled something in my spirit, because that's the beautiful, loving God that we serve, who hasn't forgotten us and who knows the struggles that we have and cares about the struggles that we have. So as I was pondering further all these things and letting God remind me of how I am remembered and I'm not forgotten, I was brought back to the place of, is there anything else you want to show me, God? And I know that I have this feeling of, I feel like I have this picture of, I'm sitting here in Utah and I've got this little plastic beach shovel, right? I don't know if you've ever played on a beach, but so little plastic beach shovel. And I'm sitting here under this big tree with harder ground, deep roots, and I'm like trying to dig. I've been in Utah for 20 years, and I really have wanted nothing more than to see God reach the beautiful people of Utah. I love them so much. They're beautiful people. And to see God's Spirit move here, and wanting what I'm seeing happening in other places around the world, and just wanting the fullness of whatever God wants to do on the earth today. I want to partner with that. And feeling like, here I am with my little shovel, not making any ground, just kind of my life's blood poured out in a lot of ministry to a lot of people, and to my family, and just feeling like, okay, what am I doing? Is this worth it? Is what I'm doing in life worth it? And God showed me that much like we look at outward appearances, like with David, but he looks inside of the heart. He showed me how I may see only this little ground and this little shovel. But what's happening is he showed me the ground underneath is reverberating. It's reverberating, and it's like the contractions, the birth pains underground. So much is happening that I can't see. And it's not just me. God's not a respecter of persons. You're not forgotten. God remembers. He's with you, and he sees what you're doing. And what feels like a little shovel is actually accomplishing more than you could even think or imagine or ask. And so I just want to encourage you as you process through things to take this verse, and I'm going to read it again, and I'm going to read another one too. And I would just say sit somewhere for a little bit, just for a couple of minutes, and ask yourselves the questions that I asked myself. This verse: can a mother forget the infant at her breast, walk away from the baby she bore? But even if mothers forget, I would never forget you, never. Look, I've written your names in the backs of my hands. The walls you're rebuilding are never out of my sight. Just read that verse and think about, do I believe that's true? Do I feel like I'm not forgotten? And then say to yourself, why do I still feel forgotten? And then ask God, when did I first believe, or what memory, when did that first happen? That first feeling of feeling forgotten. And then just kind of walk through that with God. Invite him into that memory with you. And just say, God, where were you when that happened? And let him really just speak to you about where he was and show you. And once you do that, and kind of have a little conversation and let him just speak to your heart and to your mind and to your spirit, then just say, God, are there any other truths that you want to share with me about this? And just let him speak that to you, and just take a moment for that to happen. And I just want to read one more. There's one more verse that I want to read that really spoke to me as I was pondering all of this. And I just want to leave you with this, and then I'll pray. In John 14:18-20, it says, I will not leave you orphaned. I'm coming back. In just a little while, the world will no longer see me, but you're going to see me because I am alive, and you're about to come alive. At that moment, you will know absolutely that I'm in my Father, and you're in me, and I'm in you. You're not orphaned. You're not forgotten. In fact, you are so remembered. And God looks at the heart, and he sees what you're doing. He cares about it, and it's having more effect than you actually realize. So I'm going to invite you again to do those questions, ask those questions, rewind this, listen to it, pause it, take some time to answer those questions, and I'm going to pray for you. God, I just thank you for each and every person that will come across this video. And I just thank you that you love them so much. I thank you that you remember them, that we are set free to be remembered, God. You will not forget us. You do not forget us. It's not possible. We are written on you. And you look at our heart. You don't look at what's going on outside. I mean, you do, but you know what's happening on the inside. You see what others can't see and don't see. So God, I just ask that you would just minister to my friends. If they're feeling forgotten today in any way, I pray that you would show them how very remembered, how very important they are, how much you love them, and how much you see them for who they really are. You know, God, you know them, you see them, you understand them, and they're not forgotten. I just pray that you would bless them, help their hearts to be guarded. Guard their hearts, God, not in a way that's out of fear or because their hearts are bad, but just knowing that what's in there is important to you and you care about it. And I pray also that that you would show them truths about who they are that they don't even know and where you were, because you're outside of time. You can walk our timelines and show us things that we didn't know that can change us and help us to remember that we are remembered. Bless them, keep them, let your face shine upon them until we talk again next week. In Jesus' name. Thanks so much for whatever time you've listened. I hope you have a really good week, and I'll talk to you next week.